Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual podcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. And this is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey, and we're in the countdown toward Tom playing meaningful playoff games. But all of a sudden, in the baseball world, where they're ahead of us in terms of starting out and resuming play, there's trouble.
Yep.
We're three games in, and this morning, as on the morning of Game 4, the Florida Marlins have already canceled their home opener, and there are reports that 14 players,
Yep.
have tested positive.
Yep.
And, they're not doing it the same as the NHL.
Right.
But, this just reminds us all that this is not going to be an easy march to crowning a champion.
And it kind of makes you wonder, like the NHL and the NBA have created those bubbles, and in football to this point, and obviously with baseball here, excuse me, they have not created a bubble. And you're thinking to yourself, like, why would you not create a bubble? I guess it's where do you go play? Where are 2 sites or whatever you need to go play all your baseball games? Now they've got them out in the community. Who knows what they're doing? There was a story also the other day where a basketball player was given some time away to go to a funeral at his home in Georgia, and he was spotted out. There was a picture of him taking at a adult club, and it was funny. It's not funny. He had a mask on. They tried to later on say, well, that was a picture from a couple of years ago, but he had a mask on. So, I look at baseball and go, what do you think is going to happen? Especially you get teams, it's the Florida Marlins. Florida is one of the worst hit states going right now. And these players are going home and doing who knows what they're doing. Yes, they're getting tested all the time, but you're testing that now they are getting tested positive. So it kind of almost makes you wonder about baseball. What were you thinking? Like, how did you think that these guys were not going to get tested positive if you've got them back out there at places, especially in places like Florida, where they're so hard hit right now?
Yeah, it really is. And, the irony, of course, is they're not home. They're in Philadelphia, but they were home, obviously. Yes. And that's where there is an incubation period in terms of contracting this virus and for, the positive tests or symptoms or both occur. And, they're not the only team. I watched over the weekend, my Detroit Tigers were playing the Cincinnati Reds in Cincinnati. They had a starter who played game 1 who tested positive on day 2. And then on day 3, another player didn't even get to the ballpark. He called in and said, I'm just not feeling well. And they said, don't even show up. They've already put him on the 10-day IR, which suggests they think he has COVID-19, would be my guess. Right. And then there was another player that they didn't play as a precaution because he just wasn't right either. So,
and they're endangering other people to getting on planes. There's pilots, there's flight attendants, people, ground workers. It's not just the ball players too. It's like if I'm a regular citizen and I've lost my job and I can barely pay my rent, or if I've lost a family member to the virus, I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? at least with baseball, with hockey and basketball, they're trying to create that bubble, and hopefully it's going to work. I mean, they've gotten the players in hockey's case, they've gotten all the players and all the 52 people on each team to the location, to the bubble now, and you hope that nothing has happened while they've got there. But I mean, I'm looking at baseball right now, and I'm thinking, like, I just think it's so irresponsible the way they're handling it. And again, not just for their own players, but for everybody that they encounter. So,
yeah, I mean, right now, look at their situation. They're in Philadelphia.
Yep.
They didn't leave last night to go home.
Yep.
Because they wanted to see how the testing would go this morning. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
So now what do they do? Like, if you're a pilot, do you want to fly them back?
Yeah, totally. Or they're in a hotel. Obviously, somebody's serving the meals. Somebody's maids are cleaning the rooms and everything. It's like all these people are exposed to it because they wanted to play baseball. I mean, it's like, it's like,
and there are some people in the ballpark. I mean, not a lot, but there are people that have to work there in order to accommodate a game being played there. So,
the argument's going to be that 99% of these athletes are going to be fine. 99% of them are going to be fine. because they're healthy and all that kind of stuff, which is probably true. But like you have mentioned several times, what about all the people that are not that healthy that they encounter, right? So,
well, and let's look at what's happened so far. We all read the story of Kingery of the Philadelphia Phillies, his experience with the disease. It was not pleasant.
Yeah.
And now we have reports that Eduardo Rodriguez, the pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, has developed a heart issue.
Yeah.
As a result of this. And we've also seen younger people who have had, now, if you're an elite level athlete, your lung capacity and those kinds of issues are important to you.
Yep.
Your recovery time. I mean, I remember when it was the VO2 test that started out, I think, in the 1980s. They started to take it when
hated it too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they measure your lung capacity, right?
Yep.
Well, if this could have a lasting impact on your lung capacity, that that could have an impact as well. So
you think about the player, he's worked so hard to build up his career. He gets to that point. He now contracts the virus. It does damage to his lungs, and now he can't be the player that he expected himself to be because he's damaged his body, right? So
yeah, well, and this this really brings up what you and I have been talking about the whole long. We're very supportive of this, and thinks the NHL is doing all they can, but there's no guarantees.
Yeah. You would hope, you would think, and the argument's been made that in the NHL in particular, they may be the safest people on the planet right now because of the bubble they're in. As long as they can get to the bubble without any positive test, if they really maintain that bubble, then you would say, okay, they are the safest people there because they've contained everything. But I mean, there's still going to have to be. I was reading articles today. From what I understand, the people like the Rangers that are staying at the Royal York will be walking over to the arena. It's a short walk, but they're still going to be out in public walking. So there's always that. I mean, I guess my point with that is
they're outside.
You're never going to be able to make it 100%.
No,
right. So,
well, but here's why it's better though, and why we shouldn't compare baseball. Number one, as you just mentioned, they're in a bubble. This bubble is pretty tight, from what I hear, in terms of a number of people who are in it. They're very limiting in terms of the people that are going to be allowed, and in the arena, they're not allowing even many people in the arena in terms of workers and stuff. Number two, we're in Canada where the spread has not been as significant. So I think that's certainly in their favor. There's no travel. We're not going. We're in a hub.
Yep.
So that makes it better than baseball as well. So there are a lot of reasons to believe that we're going to be doing better. In baseball, it's a pretty lengthy period where you have all of the teams involved.
Yeah.
In hockey, in a very short while, we're going to be rid of half of the players.
Right. Totally.
And I think, to me, I think once we start getting out of the first two rounds, the qualification round, and then what would be the normal first round, and all of a sudden we're down to, 16 teams or eight teams. We'll be down to 8 teams after 2 rounds. So, I think that'll be better as well. But
by the way, but I need to interrupt something too. By the way, you get a little bit of like the Sean Connery look going on today, like with the beard and all that kind of stuff, the haircut and the little gray beard and everything.
Yeah, I'm ready to go on a little bit of a mission.
I can see you like with an English accent.
Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I'm feeling good. I'm going down to. Speaking of that, the one thing that is a bit scary is for the Florida Marlins is they're going back, if they can get back there, to an area where the infection rate in terms of the number of people who are tested to the number of people who are positive is over 18%. Now, I bring that up because, as I've mentioned before, my daughter's getting married, and I have really stayed in quarantine. Like, if you're listing the people in this country who are really living the life, a sheltered life right now, I'm in that that top 10%.
And you've enjoyed it probably too. You haven't, as a
yeah. I mean, I've watched a lot of television and done some things. So it's been okay. I mean, I'm golfing, but it's just me and my wife,
right?
So I'm not really. It's not much of a risk, but we're not going out to restaurants.
Right.
I'm not. In fact, I'm not going anywhere other than occasionally I go to the grocery store.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. But my daughter's getting married, and that wedding is in South Carolina, and very limited number of people. There were more than when this wedding was originally planned. The guest list was over 200, and now we're down to just essentially the family, my family of 13, and then his the groom's family, which I think is 20 some. So we're going down there to be a small wedding. But my daughter, who is in public health, told me that the testing positive rate there is 20%. It's higher than Florida.
Wow.
So, am I looking forward of setting foot in South Carolina? Well, yeah, I am, because it's my daughter's wedding, but I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to be going out for barbecue and, some of the things that I would normally do. I'll probably just, kind of hole up and hope for the best. And, I think that's the key thing here. This will work in hockey as long as everyone is careful. And we've talked about this so much, but it bears repeating. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Absolutely.
And
it's interesting hearing the football players talk about that. They're going to have 90 guys in their team, and some of the older players are such a disparity, right? And some of the older players are saying, "Okay, that's great. I'm going to be careful, but these young kids, I have to trust the fact that they're not acting stupid, right?"
Right.
And I think to a lesser extent that is still the same in hockey. Although I'm getting the sense from what I'm reading and hearing that, I guess I'm comparing it to the old days, and I thought to myself, well, for sure somebody's going to break it, but I don't know what these guys now. It's a different breed of players now. But again, you're still talking about a number of guys that maybe some guy that a black ace, what we call him, that isn't going to play, says, I'm going to sneak out and meet somebody, or I'm going to have somebody come to my room or whatever. And it just takes that one guy. But
I mean, John Tavares, Jonathan Taves, Sidney Crosby, none of those guys are going to break the bubble.
Yeah.
If it happens, it's going to be,
especially some guy that thinks he's really not going to play, right? He's like the 30th guy on the roster, great kid, working hard and everything like that, but he's got no significant plan. He's sitting around the hotel saying, "What am I doing? I want to get out. I'm going to go crazy here." So,
well, we've seen in this this latest round of increased positives around the country, it's just a reminder to all of us how easily this spreads. The community spread is. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Hey, so sad news we got to discuss, and I don't know how much we really want to get into it, but Barry Beck, an old teammate of mine, great guy, and he's doing a lot of things to help out another former teammate, Mark Pavlich. His son so Barry's over in Hong Kong, I believe, right? And his son up in Ontario was 2 days ago, apparently was murdered and lost his life. So sad news, and our prayers go to Barry. So, yeah,
that is a very sad Tom, and because of social media, we all kind of got word about that, and it's just so hard to understand that.
Well, I hate to say it, like you're the same way too. We're very positive people, right? There's a lot of bad stuff going on around us, but there's still a lot of great stuff going on. But man, I'm getting the sense lately that there's we had another tragic story here in Greenwich, Connecticut. The high school hockey coach. Apparently, from what they're saying, took his life on Saturday. Here, I was at a park here in Greenwich. There's a beautiful place called Todd's Point where you walk around. There's a beach and everything, and there's all kinds of families and people walking and riding bikes and getting out and exercising. And these two men. This one man had he looked like a 3 or 4 year old son riding a bike. He was on rollerblades, and another man had just gotten out of a car. I don't know what the confrontation was, but they're standing out at this beautiful park with this 3 or 4 year old boy standing there screaming at each other, calling each other these nasty names, telling them they're going to beat the what out of each other. And it was like, I'm looking at these men, and like the 3 or 4 year old boy, I was just walking up on the scene, and I was thinking to myself, I've got to jump in and say something here, because they were just totally unaware that this little boy is sitting here listening to this whole thing. And it was nasty the way they were talking to each other. And like, there's one thing if you want to get in a fight and all that kinds of stuff. Two men do it. It's off at a hockey rink or wherever it is. But I know it's one situation, but I'm thinking to myself, like, are we all losing our mind here or what? Like some of the stuff that's happening in the world. So tough.
Yeah, it's sad. And, you never know quite what to do. I went to the store to pick up something when I was up at my lake house, and I saw an 18-year-old store employee and an older gentleman get into it over the return of bottles.
Yeah.
Of all things, he wanted to return bottles, and the guy said, "Well, you're past the deadline. We only return bottles till whatever time it was." And he was real nice about it, and the older gentleman was not very nice about it.
Yeah.
And, I thought he was going to hit him, but it didn't.
Are we all so frustrated with everything that's going on all at once? Yeah. I think I almost get the sense that everybody's like, well, I'm staying home and quarantine myself, but everybody else is going on riots and going to rallies and everything like that. But like, what am I doing? Like, it's not just people are almost feeling like, why do we even care anymore? I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want to do. That's the sense I'm getting.
Well, but when you do that, you don't, you hurt yourself. So,
yeah, totally. I agree.
You don't want to.
Yeah, sad story about Barry, and
it is.
Yeah.
Well, and he's so far away.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't even know that you can even grieve properly when you're that far.
Yeah. Right. I think there's all the thoughts as a father that, you should have been there to help him, and, you're helpless. So you can't do anything now. So, yeah. And I'm assuming they're going to have some kind of, getting back into Canada for the funeral, even, I'm assuming they're going to allow him back in, but I really have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. All that stuff that goes on. So a lot for him to think about.
Yeah. Well, we got another story to discuss as well. It's a strange one, Tom. John Chaika, who was the youngest person ever to become a general manager in the four major sports 3 years ago or so, when he became general manager of the Arizona Coyotes. He up and terminated his own contract. He had signed an extension not all that long ago. And by all accounts, I think has done a really good job in Arizona. He came to Arizona with a reputation of being an analytics guy, a guy who understood the advanced stats and knew how to utilize them. But he was more than that. He was a guy that certainly knew the game from the eye test as well as the numeric side of it. And I thought that he was going to eventually pull that team out of a hole, but for whatever reason, and we don't know all the particulars, both sides have been a little cagey about it, but from reports that we've read, he at some point recently wanted to explore another job option that he was presented, and it was through another NHL team. And supposedly, according to reports, it was a team that had not only an NHL team, but other sports were involved in other sports. It was a family. And of course, that's led to speculation that it was about the Buffalo Sabres, who owned the Bills. The Pagulas owned the Bills and the Sabres. And so the speculation has been that it would have been a job that would have put him over both the NFL team and the NHL team. And they've hired, they being the Sabres, have hired Kevin Adams as their general manager, so I'm not sure how that would work, and maybe that's not even the right team. But if it is the Bills, so you can see how that works. Now, this is where we don't really know what happened, but something happened between the owner and Chaika, the new owner. And I took note, and I brought this up to someone recently, that when Taylor Hall met with the new owner, John Chaika wasn't there. Now, this was a week ago, 10 days ago?
Oh, is that right? I didn't hear that story.
Yeah. He wasn't there.
Right.
And now we've been hearing that Chaika has not been involved with the team in not a lengthy period of time, but over the last week or so.
Now, is this related to this new job search that you're saying? Or?
Apparently, or that the falling out had occurred, not like yesterday,
right.
But, probably a week ago and whatever. And, I think it had to do with, if the reports are to be believed, that the new owner, who liked Chaika, didn't want him to go take that job and felt you signed a contract.
Right.
And And there was a report this morning that the Coyotes have asked Gary Bettman to become involved, which also leads to the idea that there's another NHL team involved. Yeah. So that's, again, we get back to the.
Okay, so if that is the case, so he's got a contract, it is basically, if he hasn't, there's a chain of command to kind of make those things happen. So if it is Buffalo, if they really wanted to go talk to Chaika, the proper way to do it is to approach that owner and say, do we have permission to talk to John Chaika? Now, if they didn't do that, if they just went and talked to him, as one of our writers here, or followers, Ron James, has mentioned, that'd be considered tampering, right? I mean, you haven't gone through the proper channel.
Well, the reports are that he did do that. They did give him permission, but and this is what the reports are. Chaika had sort of presented it as, hey, look, I'm not all that interested, right. But I want the experience of going through it.
Right.
And that turned out not to be true, that either he was persuaded that.
But that's contract negotiation 101. I mean, I remember when Donald Fair came in to help with the Players Association, and he told everybody repeatedly, I'm not interested in the job. I'm not interested in the job. Well, yeah, because then now, if you're clearly, he knew he was going to be beloved by the players. And then when they came to ask him, he's going, no, I don't want to do it. And they're going to keep throwing money at him until you take the job, right? I mean, I mean, that's negotiation. Yeah.
Well, whatever. So here we are. But here's the thing, and this is what struck me. And I full disclosure, I like John.
Yeah, we had him on our show, right? We had him on our podcast.
Yeah. He's a likable guy. I think he knows the business.
Very intelligent.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed. He's a man that treats everyone well.
Yep.
So saying all that, it surprises me to hear myself say, I don't like how this was handled. Like, how does this look? That, this Arizona team, a team that has really worked hard under Rick Tocchet to establish itself with the fan base as being a highly competitive team. They switched. They're really a defensive team now. Tocchet has really got them working hard. They're hard to play against.
Yep.
Thanks to John Chaika, they've got quality goaltending.
Yep.
And when Kemper was healthy, they were as good as anyone out in their division.
Yep.
And now they're going into the playoffs. Again, still trying to establish itself in Arizona. We've been saying that a long time, but they just never have been able to sustain any momentum. And now all of a sudden their GM is saying, well, we wish you luck, but I'm going elsewhere. I think that doesn't that's not going to go over well. Now, obviously one team loves him, so
right.
They're probably going to hire him anyway. But if I'm around the league, I just don't know how that looks.
Well, I guess, and I know we have a collective bargaining agreement and everything, but I always try to compare those situations to the player's side, right? Players can be traded. They can be in the middle of a contract, and you can sign the contract with the Arizona Coyotes as a player, and then the Coyotes decide, well, we don't want you here anymore. We're going to trade you someplace else. I mean, I know it's not the same. It's not a trade. It's not two teams deciding, although this may become kind of a trade. I mean, if Gary Bettman gets involved, and if he does really want to go sign, Chaika really does want to go sign with Buffalo, there may be some compensation going back to Arizona for that to happen, right? That's happened in the past, I think. With
for sure it has. But I'll tell you what, though, would you give up if you're Buffalo? Would you give up a first-round pick to get John Chaika?
Well, here's the thing: that team, for whatever reason, is lost right now, and they've been lost under how many different people, right? They can't seem to get it right. So if they really, obviously, if everything is falling together here, they believe that John Chaika is the guy to not just oversee the hockey team, but oversee all of their sports that they have, the football and the hockey. And still allow people like Kevin Adams to be the general manager, but he's just kind of overseeing things, then maybe they do. They say, okay, we'll give up that first round draft pick so that we can get this ship going in the right direction. He may be worth it, right?
Well, I like your argument too that if GMs, they can be fired at a moment's notice.
Sure. Yeah.
And, so doesn't Chaika owe it to himself?
Yes, absolutely. Family? Yeah. I mean, you I talk about how much I think of Gerard Gallant as a person and as a coach. He's had a contract twice now. He was doing a great job in Florida, I believe. He was doing a great job and I think for different reasons, he was doing a great job in Vegas. And they decided, no more, you're gone. And especially in Florida, the way they handled it all. And they basically left him at the rink there to get his own cab to the airport. I mean, that was
yeah.
I mean, that's a one-time thing.
Yes, that was.
But I'm with you. Yeah, listen, I understand why Arizona would not be happy about it, but I mean, this is hockey, it is sports, there's the loyalty and all that kinds of stuff, but it's business too. I mean, in Wall Street, these business guys are jumping around from different firms to different firms all over the place. They've got contracts, they get bigger signing bonus than somebody else, and that's just the way the business goes. So
this story though reminds me of years and years ago, 40 years ago almost. Right. I was covering a very big time high school football coach. And I was told by Ferris State University, I had sources who told me that this high school coach that was well known in my area was a leading candidate to go to become head football coach at Ferris State.
Oh,
so I called the guy up and said, "Hey, I got it from Ferris State sources that you're a leading candidate," and he said, "I forbid you from running that story." And I said, "Nah, that's not quite how it works." But I appreciate that. And he goes, "No, you don't understand. I'm not giving you permission to run that information." And I said, "Well, you didn't give me that information. I got that information from somebody else at the school, and I am going to run that because you're a very important thing." And he said, he just went nuts and started calling me everything and every name in the book. And when it was all done, he sort of realized that he had sort of blown his cool, and he goes, "Well, you just put me in a bad spot. You put me in where nothing good could, there wasn't anything I could say." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what I would have said if I was you. I would have said, I'm probably going to stay here at my high school here because I love it here. I love the people. I love the kids. I love everything. But every once in a while, an opportunity comes up, and you owe it to yourself and your family just to explore it, to see what it's about. See whether or not I really want to go any higher.
So you said this to him after he blew up at you?
Oh yeah, this is what I said. But you said you got to do those things. You got to explore them. But I'm more than likely going to be here, and why would I want to leave? Like, I love everything about this school in this area. And the guy said to me, "It's probably too late to say that now, isn't it?"
Did he? Probably should have begged you. Can you please just write that down for me?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So as it turned out, the world didn't end. I wrote the story. I mentioned that he had always loved it there, and and nothing happened. It was all good. He didn't get the job, and he ended up staying there forever. So it was all well.
But you protected him, at least trying to protect him a little bit. He probably now says, "Oh God, I don't know if he ever needed him to talk to him, but he'd probably bent over backwards to help you out, right? I mean, because when he calmed down, he realized I was just doing my job, and that it wasn't the end of the world. That he could then go out and tell everyone when they'd ask him about it. He goes, "Oh, I'm not going to get the job, but don't you have to check this kind of things out? That's so anyway." Yeah. But anyway, that's my point about Chaika, and you make a good point as well. And you made me come around because I thought he sort of looked bad in all this, and I don't know, maybe he does to some people, but. Well, there's always going to be those people that they hold the loyalty, and yes, the loyalty to a team is very important, right? Especially when you're the leader of the team in that case, like he is, right? I mean, the players looking at him, the coaches are looking at him, but it's business. I mean, like anybody else, if the owner had an opportunity to sell that team for twice what he bought for, he has the right to sell it. So he's going to make a profit if he wants to do that. So I mean, is he any less loyal because he's now selling the team? I mean, it's. I think it's always easy to play that loyalty card when you're somebody else, but that's not getting that new opportunity, right? So
yeah, and it's a new opportunity for Steve Sullivan, who's the new GM in Arizona. And who knows? Maybe he'll be a better GM than Dennis.
Yeah, totally.
You never know.
Steve Sullivan will go down. He's a great player, but there's a YouTube video of him that made him famous. You ever see the YouTube video where he was playing for Chicago and he got hit in the face with a puck? I can't remember where they were, but when there's a fan in the stands and they're drinking beer and everything, and they're sitting right by the glass, and he's skating off his shirt, he's got the towel on. The fan starts making fun of him. He's sitting there with his girlfriend or his wife, and the fan starts making fun of him, like, "Oh, you big baby," and all this kinds of stuff. And Sullivan responded to him. He was right there in front of him. It was just a pane of glass between the two of them. Nothing happens. He goes off the ice, and later on in the game, Sullivan's on the ice. Now the puck gets shot over the glass, hits that same fan right in the face, pretty much in the same place where Sullivan got burnt. So he's now bent over, the towel's on, he's whining and everything for himself. Sullivan goes right up to the glass, starts laughing at him, and it was later in the game, and I think the wife or girlfriend must have had a couple of cocktails because she starts laughing too. She thinks it's really funny that, the boyfriend or husband before would make it fall as Sullivan, and now the puck hits him in the face. So it's a famous video for Steve Sullivan. So.
That's a great. I don't think I've seen that video.
Yeah, it was good.
I'll have to look that out. But anyway, we've exhausted our time as usual. It's the fastest half hour in sports that we have here. 30 minutes seems like 15 when we start gabbing. But I think today the lesson is we got to be more vigilant than we've been in the past. If baseball's having problems, we have to learn by what has happened to them. And
that's a great point. That's a great lesson for all of us. Yep.
Yep. Sounds good. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Wednesday for another edition. We're moving closer to the dropping of the puck.
That's right. We got exhibition games on Wednesday night, don't we?
Yes, we do.
All right, guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.